Hello. Some more Mr. Jeffy E news dropped. Don't know if you're paying attention. I was just reading the news, going through stuff like how Donald Trump was apparently doing his best Nancy Reagan impersonation with his big beautiful bill, and how Peter Thiel loved emailing Jeff, thanking him for the events he hosted, and I was like, dog. Part of this news was a huge collection of emails, and some of that includes Jeff's Amazon.com purchase history, so I thought it'd be fun to look at some of them today. I promised I was working on a specific topic for another video, and that's all but done. It's taking me a while to put it together. I've been sick, and also, just to give you a preview, here's low tax, and here's everything else. It's still coming. This is honestly kind of related. It's interconnected. This is like the free space in the bingo square. So consider this like a preview. Now, Mr. Epstein was not a subtle man. His plane was named what it was for a reason. And just to wet your whistle, as it were, in October 2016, he snapped up 17 copies of a new book about himself. And a few months later, he picked up 6 books about narcissism. He is not a subtle man. The earliest records that he has here from his Amazon.com purchases are from 2007. This was shortly after the FBI had started investigating Epstein in something called Operation Leap Year. Now, Epstein's lawyers met with federal prosecutors, asked them to end the federal investigation so Epstein could instead face a single Florida charge of solicitation of a prostitute. Bit of a downgrade. While this was happening, he brought some books about math, which was a subject he taught as a New York prep school teacher before he became a Mossad agent / financier. He also purchased books about wisdom, suffering, spiritual healing, Jesus, some basic stuff. This isn't the big meat and potatoes. However, on Christmas Eve of that year, he ordered some guides to tantric sex and erotic spirituality. I believe this was around the same time his also a pedophile lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, or at least one of his team, was trying to alter the deal with the FBI in a more favorable way towards him. Great start. On to 2008. In June, he pled guilty, as planned, and began serving a sentence in Palm Beach County, Florida. And in July, he had a request for his assistance. Please reorder the yoga book and order Nabokov softcover novels. I love you and miss you. I'm going to show one of the cover of Nabokov's most infamous novels on screen now. Anyway, in 2009, he was released from custody to 1 year of home detention and registered as a sex offender with the Florida authorities. We get a big gap, nothing really in these emails until about 2013. Not sure why. He had a lot of different email addresses, so maybe he had a different Amazon account, but in 2013 he turned 60, bought 2 books about wealth management. Well, one was about family wealth management, and the other was a biography of an obscure Rothschild for some reason that we're not going to dig too deep into. But 2014 was when he really started ramping up the novel purchasing, buying a couple of books about a guy called Harry Flashman. This was like a novel series about a globe-trotting Victorian pervert, basically, and a bunch of books from a series called The Man from Orgy, which is like if James Bond was using a sex therapist as his cover story and somehow even more of a rapist. He purchased the complete book of Pilates for Men and a book called The Physics of Immortality. The Physics of Immortality claims it can scientifically prove that the dead can be resurrected, so watch out for that one becoming a bit more popular with Brian Johnson. And in October of the same year, that's a lot of books in 1 year, he ordered 6 copies of a book explaining how to cater to billionaires called The Celebrity Assistant's Handbook, which I assume was to give to the staff in Little St. James. In 2015, he got books on Vatican secrets and some books from a fella called Norman Mailer on feminism. To put it bluntly, Norman wasn't a big fan of feminism, to really put it bluntly. So I don't really know what Jeff took away from it. In fact, he emailed Kathy Roimler in July of 2016 saying he no longer used terms like broad, so Jeffrey Epstein woke, I guess. That being said, he also purchased a fuck ton of books by alleged child molester Woody Allen, so, you know. This is the kind of stuff that a bad writer would put into a novel to indicate that a character is a sex pest or pervert or a child molester of some description. He goes on to buy a book on dishonesty, a book on good decisions and gut feelings, some works from Tom Wolfe, who mostly writes about the lifestyles of the intellectual elite of New York City. This is also the year where James Patterson's book about him gets released, so he buys a copy. Then 6 more copies. Then 9 more copies. Then another copy. And just as the cherry on top, he finishes the year with a book called The Dictator's Handbook, which argues that bad behavior is almost always good politics. When his, according to him, not very close friend, the emails really spell it out that he was not a big fan of Donald in the end, was elected and had his inauguration in 2017, he buys 6 different books about narcissism and 2 books about swearing. And then even more books about swearing. That's a lot of books about swearing. We're in the home stretch of his life now, fortunately. 2018 is a big white-collar crime year, Ultimate Ponzi, the Panama Papers. No one really decided to dig deeper into the Panama Papers after that one guy died, right? The king of oil. And then a bunch of guides to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the blockchain. And I don't know enough about crypto. I'm not a crypto guy, but here's something from the recent email release revealing he was one of the early investors into Bitcoin Core, which is one of Bitcoin's key nodes. Please put those two together and rotate them in your head, and try and think why the most notorious sex trafficker and pedophile in the world would want to fund cryptocurrency development. He doesn't really care. He's out here buying some books on botany and self-help, though. The brilliant green House of Spies, Secret Empire. Corruption. He does, corruption, self-help, and botany are his big, comfort novels, I guess. The last year of his life has a lot of Trump books. And I mean a lot of Trump books. In December of 2018, he's buying some interesting stuff. A book called Direct Truth, which promises to answer the enduring questions of life, a biography about our good friend Adolf H., the one, and a secret history of Israel's targeted assassinations. For the start of 2019, he was kind of playing the hits, psychology, philosophy, the Vatican, as well as a guide to writing jokes, and he bought a bunch more Nabokov books. He's on record as keeping a few copies of Lolita around. He kept one by his bed, he kept one on his plane, the Lolita Express. And 43 days before his arrest, he ordered a final copy. That wasn't his last book. It would be kind of darkly funny if it was. His last book was called The Birth of Tragedy by Friedrich Nietzsche. On July 6, 2019, he traveled by private jet to Teterboro Airport in New Jersey, where he was arrested. He was then charged with sex trafficking minors to, if we believe FBI Director Kash Patel, absolutely no one but himself. And on August 10th, in his jail cell, he was found dead. Look, this is the same guy that listened to Little Girls by Oingo Boingo. I don't know what you expected.
Walk into the bank with some shit in your pants, 'cause you had too many crystals and you somehow tried to dance. Walk up to the teller with an awkward grin on your face. Hand over the shitty check to him and it's time to get paid. But he says he can't cash it 'cause it's covered in shit. There's no way to sign it, and it's not even legible. No!